Hi there, and welcome to the New York School of Design's Intro to Digital Design. My name is Vidal Cyperly Valencia, and I'm a fashion designer here in New York City. And we're actually going to sketch our first digital fashion flat by creating a t-shirt. So I hope you're ready, and we're just going to jump right in. And so I have my croquis over here, and we're just going to draw a basic t-shirt today to really use some of the shape tools we've learned about, as well as mostly the pen tool. And you can see I have two layers here. So this bottom layer, if I toggle on and off with this eye, is my croquis. And I have locked my croquis. And I always lock my croquis because if you accidentally click and drag it, it's going to shift it and it might mess your SketchUp. I just prefer for it to be on its own layer. That way I can toggle its visibility on and off. And I also lock the layer itself too. So you can lock the layer by just clicking this button here to lock or unlock it. And then on the second layer is usually where I'll do my sketching. So to just get started, we're just going to take our pen tool and we're just going to start drawing. And it's important to remember that working in Illustrator is really convenient because you can make all types of edits very easily. I personally prefer sketching in Illustrator nowadays to hand sketching because I always found like pencil shavings or smudge on the paper and it would make my sketches look messy. So for me, the beauty of working on sketches in Illustrator is that you can edit them. And once you get used to how sketches are looking and you're more familiar with the software, it gets a lot more comfortable for you to really use the tools to make changes and also make changes as you want for design. So I'm just going to start pretty basic here, and I'm going to start with the shoulder, and I'm just going to draw a pretty straight point for my front neck drop. As you can see, I have a black fill set for some reason, so I'm just going to restore this back to the default. And I'm going to follow along the body that I want. I want a little bit of curve for my armhole. And I'm going to make it just pretty straight for the most part. And then I'm going to just connect each of my previous point with the next. I'm going to use the pen tool's curves in order to make curved seams or curved lines where I want them. As you can see here on this neck, it looks very straight. So I'm actually going to take the anchor point tool that we talked about here by hard pressing, anchor point tool, and I'm going to turn that into a curve. I'm going to take my direct selection tool and just make a couple adjustments. I don't love how it's looking in terms of the curve of the armhole. It's a little bit better. And so I'll start with that for my body. And I'll go back to my pen tool. And now I'll do my sleeve. And this is where some of the principles of the arrangement comes in because I'm going to draw my sleeve effectively over the body, just making adjustments as I go. And then once I have sort of what I want for the sleeve that will be showing, I will take it and send it backwards. So I'm using the keyboard shortcut, which is Command bracket, but again, it would just be going to arrange, send backwards, or send back. Now it's looking a little bit long, so I'm going to just make an adjustment there. I'm going to adjust my armhole a little bit, and I'm going to adjust the angle of this a little bit, but that's looking all right for my t-shirt. So from there, I can really just continue fleshing out the details. I can utilize the pen tool, or I can use the direct selection tool and copy. So I'm doing Command C, Command V, pasting. This is to create my stitch line. So I want there to be top stitching for the hem, and I want it to be double needle. So I'm just gonna, for this example currently, I'm gonna just draw my curve like this. I'm going to get rid of the fill on my stitch line. And one trick I've been doing that I maybe have not mentioned is if you hold Option and click an object and drag it, it will just clone it for you. So now if I select all of this, so the sleeve, the stitching, and I do group, I group these together, you'll see it brings it to the front, but then when I send it backwards, now if I move my sleeve, it's on one piece. So I'm going to take my direct selection tool and I'm going to nudge down my shoulder a little bit. So I just selected these points here, these ones, and I'm just nudging it downwards to make it look a little bit better to me. And then from there, I'm just going to keep kind of repeating this process across the board. Now, at this point, I would select most of my body, including the sleeve, and I would use my mirror tool. I'm holding Shift to set the axis. I'm still holding Shift, clicking Option, and that is going to reflect it over to the opposite side. So now I have my two pieces here. You can see there's a little bit of space in between them right now. So I'm just going to select the right side that I've got, and then I'm going to nudge it over to the left so there's a slight overlap in the body. I select both sides of the body, taking my shape builder, and now I'm making the body a single piece. Again, sometimes when you make adjustments, the arrangement gets moved around, so I'm just going to make sure my sleeve is also sent to the back over here. Now, the next step would be to develop a collar. So I want this to just basically have a basic t-shirt collar. I'm going to raise my front neck drop a little bit. So I'm taking direct selection. I'm just nudging upwards with my arrow keys. And otherwise, I'm just going to take my pen tool and I'm going to draw the curve that I want. I can hold shift to make sure it's looking nice. And I'm just going to draw the curve that I want for my neck seam. And then I'm going to take my pen tool and just draw a straight-ish line up here, and then do the same, holding shift, for the rest of my collar. So that's looking all right. I have the collar here. Now, if I want to, I can do the same reflect process by selecting it, reflect, holding shift to set the axis, then holding option to reflect it over. And I maybe missed a little bit on my axis, or I missed when I was drawing it in the first place, so I'm going to make that quick little adjustment and then redo it. So setting the axis, reflecting over, that looks a little better. And sometimes you kind of just have to manipulate it a little bit to make sure it's looking right. Then I'm going to, again, take my shape builder tool after I've selected both, and I'm just going to make this all one piece. Oh, well, you can see here I have a little gap, right? So I want to make sure that that gets closed up. So I'm just going to very slightly move these two pieces together. Now it's overlapping a little. Select both sides. And once again, we're going to try our shape builder. And there's your collar. Now, I usually like to make sure there's a little bit of the back showing through. So I'm getting a little bit too close. So I'm going to take my pen tool. I'm going to just draw another curve for what I want the back neck to look like. You want it to be a little bit higher than your front neck, of course. And because this is going to sit mostly so far in the back, I'm actually not too concerned right now about what the shape is going to look like. So I'm just drawing it to make sure there's coverage, and I'm going to send it to the back. And from there, I can then just hold option and clone it to make sure my bottom neck seam from the inside is showing through, and I'm just going to adjust the stroke weight a little bit up here, so that way it's looking a little bit better. Now, after doing all of this, I feel like the slope is looking a little wrong, so I'm just going to, again, take my direct selection tool, and I could either select the neck and just shift it up a little bit, so just nudge it up, or I could select each side of the shoulders and push it down a little until it's looking like something that I want it to. Again, we're just going to take the hem, and I'm just going to select the hem here. As you can see, because when I created the shape, it added a tiny, tiny little point in the bottom here. So you just want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on where points are being added when you're using tools like Shape Builder, because you can see when I select both sides of this and then copy paste it, there's a little gap. That's okay though, because I'm just going to select both sides and I'm going to do the join command. So it's Command J, which is then going to just fix that up for me. So I don't want there to be a I don't want there to be a fill. And because I want to copy my stitching, I'm just going to select my line that I want. I'm going to take the eyedropper, and I'm actually just going to click on the dotted line that I had from before. And from there, you can see it needs a little bit of fixing, but from there, it's pretty much set to be my hem, and I just need to, again, hold Option while selecting, and then there you go. And that is your first t-shirt flat. So really, there's so many ways to go about creating technical flats, and once you get more familiar with the software, the tools, the commands, the shortcuts, it'll get a lot easier for you to really learn what's comfortable for you, as well as how to really just draw within Illustrator. It takes time to learn, but once you figure out sort of a formula that's working for you, it's definitely going to be super easy. I love drawing in Illustrator for how modifiable everything is, and if I wanted to make this a long sleeve, I could take a different sketch that I had with a long sleeve and just put it back here like this. or I could add pockets, or I could add all types of details, which is just something that I feel you can't do as easily with hand sketching. So I hope you learned a lot. I always encourage you to just practice, 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 and really get familiar with the software. It takes time to learn. It's kind of like learning a new language, but once you get there, it's going to be really great, and you're going to have a lot of fun.